The very first post-Vince McMahon WWE Premium Live event takes place tonight with SummerSlam 2022. What's going on out there, guys? It's your boy Tommy on the spot for Watch Along Wrestling. Hopefully everyone is doing well and staying safe. It's the middle of the summer. It's still July, but tonight, WWE SummerSlam in actually just a couple of hours. This is a last minute review, so to speak, last minute preview and predictions for SummerSlam 2022. And I'm going to go through the entire show. I'm a little under the weather, but I wanted to make sure I got this in. It's the biggest party of the summer, the second or third, depending on what your view is, biggest event for WWE of the year. And I have to be honest, a couple weeks ago, if you asked me my excitement level over this show, I'd probably say out of 10, it was probably about a 3 or 4. But they've done a really good job in building this show up. I'd say I'm probably about a 7 or 8 for this show tonight. I'm really getting into it, and the closer we get to it, it's starting to feel a little bit more like SummerSlam. Unfortunately, as I said, I'm a little under the weather, so I was unable to make the trip down to Nashville. Getting those little warm feelings on my inside there from my trip to Vegas last year for SummerSlam 2021 and my SummerSlams of the past that I've gone to. So seeing all these fun videos pop up of people who went to the Undertaker One Dead Man show last night, people getting ready at StarCast, it's getting me feeling a little nostalgic, and I'm vicariously living through each and every one of you as I prepare for this show here tonight. So yeah, I do think WWE has pulled this show off. I think that certainly they were dealt a bit of a blow with injuries. Some of the big folks that I think were going to be a bigger part of this show are injured, not available for the show. First and foremost, obviously, Randy Orton. The rumored match for the show was going to be Randy Orton and Roman Reigns. That match obviously is not taking place. Instead, Roman Reigns is going to be facing off against Brock Lesnar in a last man standing match, and I'll get to my prediction on that a little later. Kevin Owens obviously was involved in a pretty big storyline with Ezekiel. He's been injured, I think, and a little banged up for about the last month or so he's not on the show. Rhea Ripley just returned this past Monday night, but she's been on the shelf as well. So they've dealt with their injuries, but that's part of the business. And so, with what they've done, I actually think this is going to be a really fun show tonight. I think they've dealt themselves some blows along the way as well, which we'll get to in a bit. But honestly, it is SummerSlam. I'm excited for it. It's one of my favorite shows of the year. So much nostalgia, so many great memories. So let's jump right into this show here. First and foremost, if you have not heard, Seth Rollins versus Riddle is off the show. This supposedly is actually a storyline injury, and thankfully Riddle is okay. They moved the match. They're going to do it at a later date. I think that's a bit of a mistake. I think this match, while I don't think there was too much to the build here, I think this match would have really delivered, and I feel like this show is missing a little bit of that, like, two guys go in there and just kill it. This match could have been very similar to matches in the past, like a Rey Mysterio versus Dolph Ziggler in 2009, or Dolph Ziggler versus Jericho in 2013. Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins. I'm a big Dolph Ziggler SummerSlam fan, I guess. Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins in 2018. So I feel like this would have been a good match, just to, guarantee a solid 12 to 15 minute match with these two guys in there. They decided to hold off on it, so that match won't be taking place, which does beg the question of whether or not Rollins is going to be on the show. He did write on Twitter, kind of apologizing to all of the fans that paid to see him, saying, one day maybe they'll listen to you singing my theme song and follow up with me and give me something on the show. Triple H did say, hey, I hear them, so I don't know if that means Rollins will be a part of the show. I would only assume so, which would then be fun because he's obviously had already a lot of big memories at WrestleMania with a mystery opponent, which ended up being Cody Rhodes. Obviously, Cody's on the shelf, and it won't be him tonight, but it'd be interesting to see if they do put Rollins on the show. Personally, I don't think they're going to. That sounds crazy, but you remember in 2019, they left Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, both very healthy, off of SummerSlam. Sometimes they just do that with SummerSlam. They do some weird stuff where even if somebody's pushed or somebody's got, a big act, they just keep them off the show. So I do think that's what they'll do with Rollins, but it'd be great to see him on the show, and certainly if they add that intrigue of a mystery opponent, that could be fun. Maybe bringing back somebody like The Fiend Bray Wyatt or Johnny Gargano. That could certainly be exciting. Maybe calling up someone like Braun Breaker. I think that could really kind of give a little oomph to this new Triple H era of him taking over creative for WWE. So I think that could be a lot of fun and certainly something to watch for. Getting onto the card proper now, the women's Raw Women's Championship will be on the line. Becky Lynch taking on Bianca Belair. I think this match is going to be, they absolutely killed it at WrestleMania. I'm really looking forward to the rematch, really the third match of the series, if you date back to last year's SummerSlam. Part of me does think this may end up coming back full circle, and Bianca Belair gets a quick 20-second win over Becky Lynch. But I hope not, because I think that they could do a really solid match here. They have done it in the past. I don't see Bianca losing the title. Her star is on the rise right now in WWE, and I think Becky's also reached the point where she doesn't necessarily need the title. I'd love to see Bayley get involved here, maybe have Bayley come back. I think this would be a good spot for her, kind of add some new blood into that Raw Women's division. But I think that Bianca Belair does retain the championship here, and hopefully a good match against Becky Lynch. But this one here, honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to this one being on the main event. The story between the two of them going on a full year from last year's SummerSlam, with Becky returning and getting the cheap win over Bianca, then Bianca getting her win back at WrestleMania. I think this match is the rubber match, obviously, and I do see Bianca retaining. She was all over the place this week, really representing WWE as its biggest star. So I think that's going to continue, and I can see her holding on to the title for the foreseeable future. Moving right along, the Mysterios in a no disqualification tag team match with the Judgment Day. This match feels like a match the Judgment Day needs to win. I think Edge definitely is going to be returning at some point and getting involved here with the no DQ stipulation, so it would lead me to think that the Mysterios can get the win, but they've got to do something for Judgment Day. Judgment Day finally feels like it got a little heat under it, and kind of got that igniting of the fire, so to speak, with both Damian Priest and Finn Balor getting the last laugh over Rey Mysterio and Dominic. But I could certainly see a situation maybe with, if Rey is still banged up from Monday and can't compete tonight, doing a deal where Dominic comes out, you bring in Edge, and then you have Dominic turn on Edge and join Judgment Day. Because I do think Dominic is going to join Judgment Day and eventually turn away and separate himself from Rey. So what better time to do it than tonight at a big show like SummerSlam? I thought they were going to do it at the Mysterio 20th anniversary on Monday. They didn't do that, but I think that Dominic is somebody who, I don't know if he's ready for a breakout singles heel run, but certainly as a part of a stable, and certainly someone who wouldn't have to handle a brunt of the mic work. I think he'd do very well, and I'd be into that. I think it'd be interesting to see. Continuing along here, probably the match I'm looking least forward to. This match being on the show and Drew McIntyre, Sheamus not being on the show, specifically when Drew McIntyre and Sheamus was a number one contender match for the next night, for the next pay-per-view, for Clash of the Castle. It doesn't make any sense for me, and I'm talking about Bobby Lashley versus Theory. Don't get me wrong, Bobby Lashley and Theory belong on the show. Theory has rivalries going on with about 10 different people, if you think about it, between Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman, Drew McIntyre after last night's SmackDown, Dolph Ziggler, who's been watching his matches. This guy has feuds going on with everyone, and obviously the added intrigue as to what happens with him tonight. Does he cash in Money in the Bank against the winner of the Last Man Standing match? That remains to be seen. Is this the start of a big night for Theory? It very well could be, but I don't see him winning the U.S. title here. I don't even necessarily see this match being a very big, very long match. And again, McIntyre and Sheamus was a match this card needed. They killed it last night. If you didn't see that match, that was so much fun. Such a great match. That match should have been on this show as a priority over probably both the Judgment Day match and this match with Theory and Lashley. But I think Lashley holds on to the U.S. title, continues his reign, and it feels like Theory may be on to bigger and better things. They do got to watch it with Theory. I'll get to that in a second, but I don't think Theory beats Lashley here, so I'm going to go with Lashley. Moving right along here down the stretch, you start to get some of the celebrity involvement for SummerSlam, as Logan Paul has signed a new full-time deal with WWE. We don't know the details of it. We don't know if that means he's going to be doing every single show. Probably not. Don't know if he's going to be wrestling house shows. Almost certainly not. But he is going to be wrestling The Miz here, and I'm looking forward to this. They've done a good job. I mean, I will say I have no idea what WWE is thinking by having Logan Paul being presented as a babyface. I think he's uncomfortable with it. I think when he comes out, I think he's ready to be this smarmy, douchey self, and he comes out instead and he's got to play babyface. And I just think it's kind of a square, a square peg in a round hole, so to speak. It just does not work. He's such a natural heel. But if anybody can get it to work, maybe it is The Miz. But I'd say if there's a smart crowd, like I anticipate there will be for the fans that do travel in for these bigger shows, I think that Miz is going to get a hero's welcome, especially after Ciampa's interview on Monday night, which was awesome. If you haven't seen it, make sure you go out of your way to find that from the Raw Backstage Pass deal that they do. Raw Talk, I think it's called. And Ciampa knocked it out of the park, and I think people will be really into him and really into The Miz when they do make their entrance tonight. And I think Logan Paul's going to get booed out of the building. They've got to reverse track on that real quick. So in any event, I do think Logan Paul gets the win. It's his first match as a single. He was made to look like the ass at the end of WrestleMania, so it only makes sense for him to sort of get his win back, so to speak, against The Miz here tonight. Moving right along and continuing down that same track, so to speak, with the celebrity involvement, Pat McAfee is returning to the ring to take on Happy Corbin. These two guys, you could tell, they used to be college roommates. They have been having a really fun rivalry. This is probably a match I'm looking most forward to tonight. I love Pat. I'm a big fan of his. I've been a fan for a long period of time. So having him involved in WWE is a huge deal, and I think it's a lot of fun. And I'm also a fan of Happy Corbin. I think Corbin is a guy who, he's got a million things, right? You can talk about the guy debuts at WrestleMania, wins the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. He gets Money in the Bank. He gets a program at SummerSlam with John Cena. He gets to retire Kurt Angle. He gets to be Constable Corbin on Raw. He main events 3 separate pay-per-views with Seth Rollins. This guy has gotten opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and I don't know if any of it's really connected, but there's something about this guy that I feel like he gives 110% to every one of the characters that he's in, and let's be honest, as Happy Corbin, he's one sharp-dressed man, if nothing else. So, in any event, I'm a Happy Corbin guy. I was very much excited about the potential of him beating Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania when he hit the end of days, and no one had kicked out of it at that point. That was a highlight of WrestleMania for me, one of probably my top 5 of the whole weekend. I just absolutely adored this. I thought this was great and really fun stuff. But in any event, I think Corbin finally gets the big win tonight. This guy's gotten a lot of, he didn't get the better of the feud with Madcap. He lost to Drew McIntyre. I think he needs something to heat him back up. And it just doesn't really do much to have Pat McAfee keep beating everybody that he faces. He beat Theory, who's like the next big thing here in WWE. He's not going to be a guy who's going to be in the ring every week. He's obviously being reserved for the big shows. So I'd actually like to see Pat put over Corbin here. And based on their history, both being in the Colts organizations during their football days, I could see Pat putting Corbin over here and Corbin getting the big win. So that's my prediction for that match. SmackDown Women's Championship. This one I know a lot of people are nervous about. You've got Liv Morgan defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Ronda Rousey. If Vince McMahon were still in charge of creative, I absolutely 100% could see this being the Kofi Kingston moment of the show. I could see Liv Morgan charging Ronda Rousey, Ronda flipping her over, grabbing her armbar, and done within about 20 seconds. Honestly, I could. I don't know if that's going to happen due to this new regime being in charge, and I think that if Triple H were to do that, and the new regime were to do that, people would say, oh, same old WWE. So I don't think that's the way they're going to go. I'd love to see Liv get the win here. I just don't see it. I really don't. I think Ronda's going to get the belt back. It just doesn't seem like that's where they've positioned Liv thus far. It feels like Liv's story is still to come up as that person who can come and get that opportunity to reprove herself. I hope they do give Liv the win. I think that they've got something special cooking with her on SmackDown. It feels exciting. It feels new. But I do think Ronda gets the belt back. And then I anticipate that Charlotte will return and they'll continue their rivalry, probably for Castle at the Hill, Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey, or Castle at the Clash at the Castle, Castle on the Hill. I'm talking about Ed Sheeran altogether. Clash at the Castle. So I do predict Ronda wins, but I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that they give Liv a longer reign, but I think Ronda's got this tonight. Probably the second biggest match on the show in terms of the build and in terms of just how big it's been presented has been the Usos and the Street Profits for the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championships, the Undisputed Tag Team Championships, if you will, with Double J, Jeff Jarrett, really the star of this weekend. Think about it, he was on SmackDown last night, which, quick sidebar, how insane is it that SmackDown was not in Nashville, Tennessee yesterday? Or at least someplace close, that the people that were coming into this venue for WWE were, coming in for the weekend. Give them something to sink their teeth into. I know they got the little superstore, and I know it's a little abbreviated. I know they have the Undertaker one-man show, which I heard was great, and that's awesome. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have had SmackDown in a nearby venue. You're just taking advantage of the people that are coming in to town. There's at least 30,000 people coming into SummerSlam. who I'm guaranteeing you half of which were looking for something to do last night. That Undertaker event was pretty intimate. I don't think there was that many people. It looked packed, but it didn't look like a huge venue. So I don't necessarily think that they're being very smart here, WWE. It's like they're going away from their big... They're still doing all these stadium shows, but they're not doing this, like, get as much WWE as you possibly can, and I'm not entirely sure why. There should have been an Access, and not one of these random WWE WrestleMania Access that we just had with the Superstore weird setup deal there. Should have been an Access. Should have been SmackDown at a minimum the night before, and then give them something all weekend so that at a minimum you could... I mean, StarCast has come to town, and they're pulling away all the fans that are in town for SummerSlam, and it just doesn't make any sense to me that WWE is just kind of like, yeah, hey, it is what it is. Ric Flair's last match. Yeah, that's cool. Have fun. It makes zero sense to me. But, hey, it's their business. It is what it is. So, yeah, SmackDown last night in Atlanta. Not nearly close enough to where it should have been in Nashville, Tennessee. But anyway, Jeff Jarrett was on that show last night. He's going to be main eventing the Ric Flair's last match tomorrow, teaming with Jay Lethal against Andrade and Ric Flair. And tonight, he is the special guest referee for this tag team title match. Should be a lot of fun. I'm into it. I think it's going to be a really good match. I hope they don't do much with Jeff, and I don't anticipate that they will. I just don't know where he fits in, really, to the Bloodline situation. I don't think he's joining the Bloodline. I don't think he's going to be fighting against Roman Reigns. So I just hope he calls it straight down the middle, and I think he will. I don't know what the game is here. I know he's from that area, so I think they just were maybe trying to get a boost in tickets, and I think people are excited to see him, and hey, good for him. But I don't think there's too much coming out of him being the referee here. He's always kind of been smarmy as presented in WWE, so I could see him being the heel ref, but then what is he going to get into a program with the Street Profits? I just don't see it. I actually see a title change here. Call me a fool, call me an idiot. You've got to have something that kind of gets us to this next stage with the Bloodline, and I'm thinking it's going to be the Usos losing the tag titles tonight to the Street Profits. If not, I feel like they're going to separate the Street Profits, and I don't want that. So I'm going to go with the Usos losing the belts tonight to the Street Profits, which leads us to the last man standing match, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. I think this match will be great. I think it's going to over-deliver. Honestly, I'm going in with really low expectations, which I think is going to help here, because I think we've seen it so many times. I can't believe that after you got the biggest match ever, the match they presented as kind of that last time only, so to speak, title for title at WrestleMania, that we're getting this again at SummerSlam. But I understand they got a little desperate when Orton went down. They didn't really have anything. I think, honestly, you could have done a solid deal where Orton goes down due to the Bloodline, Riddle comes for revenge, and built Riddle up to get to this match with Roman, and they had a killer match on SmackDown. But I think they felt at the time that, hey, you know, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar sells tickets. It probably does sell more tickets than Roman Reigns and Matt Riddle, so it is what it is. Here we are. Last man standing. I think these guys are going to kill it. This will probably go down as their best match, and I think it'll be fun. I think it's going to be a fun deal here. Of course, you have the added intrigue of whether or not Theory is going to cash in. I don't think he is going to cash in. If he does, I mean, I do think Roman keeps the belt here. I don't see that you have Roman hold this title for coming up now on 2 years, only to then have him lose it to Brock Lesnar after all this time. I just don't see it. So I think Roman retains the title. I don't think Theory cashes in. If he does cash in, I think Theory loses. And I think at that point, you might have cut the legs out from under this guy before he ever really got started, because you don't want to turn around like I think what happened with Corbin in 2017 when he randomly cashed in on the Friday night SmackDown, or the SmackDown, I guess, before, it was still on Tuesdays then, before SummerSlam. He didn't recover for a really long period of time. And I worry that's what they'll do with Theory if he cashes in and gets smoked by Roman Reigns right away tonight, which I do think will happen if he cashes in on Roman after he wins the last man standing match. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see if they do cash him in, but I'm thinking Roman wins tonight. But I do think, you know, it feels like we're getting somewhere where Roman's going to lose one of these titles. Hopefully at least one of them. And I do think it's going to happen at the Clash at the Castle. That's what it's called. When Drew McIntyre faces Roman Reigns. I do think Drew will get the belt there. I think that's your big match for that show. Could you go with Drew and Brock? Sure. But I just don't think it's going to be Roman holding his belts for 2 years to just drop them to Brock Lesnar. It just doesn't make any sense to me, so I anticipate Roman retains tonight. But I like at least you got a little intrigue here with whether or not Theory cashes in. Do I wish it was Rollins? Do I wish it was Riddle? Do I wish it was a couple other people with the Money in the Bank briefcase? I do, but I think they've done a good job building Theory up, kind of in the wings and kind of being sure to be that guy in everyone's face to make it like, hey, don't think I'm a joke here. I'm gonna cash in. So at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a fun show. And just to kind of recap my picks, if you weren't paying attention, how dare you? Or maybe you skirched all the way to the end, and hey, it is what it is. But my picks for tonight, kind of going in, I guess, backward order here. I think Roman Reigns retains. I do think we get new tag team champions with the Street Profits. I think we got a new SmackDown Women's Champion with Ronda Rousey defeating Liv Morgan, though I do, of course, hope I'm wrong. I think Happy Corbin over Pat McAfee. I think Logan Paul over The Miz. I think the Judgment Day over the Mysterios. I think we could see Edge in that match, which could be fun. I think Lashley over Theory, and I think Bianca Belair retains over Becky Lynch. Those are my SummerSlam picks. Let me know what yours are. Feel the excitement. Are you getting pumped for this year? What have you done to get ready for this show? I went back, I watched some of the build to Rock and Brock 20 years ago. That's what I did here, as I've been under the weather. I've just been engulfed in everything SummerSlam and trying to enjoy as much as I can from home. But hopefully you guys are enjoying, and I will check in with you guys after the show. And then I got some more fun stuff coming up, so make sure you leave a thumbs up and join in on the fun here on Watch Along Wrestling. Check in the entire hype deal that I've done for SummerSlam 2007, reliving the summer of 2007 for WWE. I'm going to post that large video on Monday, but we've got tons of clips leading up to that video that are already up on the channel. Retrospective of 2007 SummerSlam, what that my friend Steve and I were actually at. You've got 15-year look back at the Benoit tragedy, Vince McMahon blowing up in the limo, whole bunch of stuff. So enjoy, and I will see you guys again in the next video.